have the deep knowledge of, if I want to stay in Turkey, what is going to be the fate and what are the experience looks like. So I need to watch like almost like 50 videos. So which means that I will continue to learn, but until when I see somebody that have lived there and tell me directly, okay, this is how Turkey looks like, it's going to be easier than me trying to search for information or try to. So that is the idea. I'm just giving the background to why we are holding this very session and why is it important, and just to guide our thoughts. Then the second aspect is that it's going to be a free experience sharing. So from the honest perspective of, okay, this is the that I am familiar with, like Dr. Oyedara is familiar with Mexico and the northern, let me say northern America terrain, and he has encountered so many issues, and he has also gathered how to resolve it. Like Dr. Mike Bioa, he has traveled to India, then some other part of the world for different purposes, but he is not living because he is a visiting scholar at a US university now. So he has this very, and I was trying to also borrow from the idea of Dr. Abidoye, who has traveled to the Middle East. He has traveled to Europe, and he has traveled to some part of the Africa. So these are the variety of the experiences that people can learn from quickly, instead of them trying to know themselves about all these things. And Dr. Barrister Adeyemo, he has actually lived well in almost every part of the country in Nigeria. And he has traveled to the far, maybe northern parts of this very world, or I don't know, because Australia, we are talking of Australia, and he is now in Uganda. So he can actually bring that very weight of experience to educate people. Because like I shared recently, it doesn't nice when people go abroad, they don't know their faith, they don't know what they are going to meet, but because they just want to find a comfort, at the end of the day, they end up stranded, painting the image of the country differently. So to me, I think it doesn't nice. It is a nice experience, because for people that actually want to travel for exploring, for taking opportunity, it's going to have an image come out on them. Where are you from, Nigeria? They will think. It has happened to many of us when we reach the border or something, like, okay, well, what are you going there to do? They need to check your papers, check everything, until when they can certify that. In fact, at times they used to Google that, are you truly coming from an institution, or are you truly into this very business? A lot of people have suffered embarrassment based on that. So that is the idea that we are trying to paint. And I am happy that we are having you on this very interaction.
Based on the two posters you threw, that is, does it really worth it to embark on a journey outside the shore of your country? And what really motivated me to make or take some of the steps I took. So one, it's a mixed experience to travel out of your country. And the situation in the country currently is not well structured to guide citizens as to where they are actually heading to. Because in some countries, the citizens are well prepared, are well facilitated to embark on visit. In fact, in Europe, is a norm for every citizen to embark on tourism. It can be common tourism, business tourism, pleasure, or anything. So you can see a citizen of 18 years, 19 years, embarking on a journey alone across Europe. So it has been part of their culture. They have been trained to do it. They can seek government agency advice or direction as to what to do. So they are well guided. But in our country, it's not so. So if you now ask me, does it really worth it? Then I can now say there are a lot of cautions in there. But again, let's look at some other push and pull. Because in the migratory nature of man, mankind has always been migratory in nature. If you read the scripture, you will see people migrating from one settlement to the other. Even the current world modern world that we are living in currently, it is a case of settler of yesterday becoming the citizens or owner of today. Go to your hometown. They were settlers at some point in time. They've become the citizens or indigents now. So mankind has always been migratory. So it will continue to the end of it. But does it worth it? Your post that does it really worth it? That's what we want to emphasize here. There are push and pull. Pushes are that is within the system, within your own geography, then it can push you out. When there are like war, there are and so on. When there is famine in the land, it can push you. There's not enough resources, poverty, it can push. Then there are pulls again, in which case you are not being pushed now, but something is pulling you from outside. You go on social media, you see your friend who is living fine, it can pull you. Oh, my friend is riding a big car, then it can pull you. You know, our generation of Nigeria now, they are social media generation now. Twitter, Instagram. So you see your friend living in a very fine apartment in UK, US, Australia. It can pull you. Even though you are comfortable in Nigeria, you have your job, but can pull that, oh, somebody is doing something bigger. It can pull. So there are pushes and there are pulls.
Sincerely speaking, the federal government of Nigeria has already provided a lot of opportunity for any citizen who is willing to travel abroad. This is because there's a good relationship between the federal government of Nigeria and all other countries. The mere fact that the government has already provided a good landmark for any Nigerian citizen willing to travel abroad. Firstly, now, there's a diplomatic relationship between the Nigerian government and other citizens or other countries. One of it is that in any countries, there is an ambassadors of Nigeria. Likewise, those countries, they also have their own ambassador here in our country. By mere fact, the function of our ambassador is to see the relationship between a country and another country. However, there's a good provision in which the federal government of Nigeria has already provided for citizens to easily go to any country that they wish. But the problem is that the problem arises from the citizen of Nigeria moving down to another country. Because you cannot, even when we are talking about in local level, let's take Osun State, for example. If you want to travel from Osogbo down to Ineza, at least you must have your transport fare if you don't have your personal car. At the same time, you cannot just leave your hometown and go to another cities without having a target or without having anybody that you are going to meet or without having any purpose for that. The same thing happened for some citizens. They will like to leave Nigeria and go to abroad. And then mark you, even the transport fare from Nigeria to any country, at least now as I'm talking now, be around over 200,000. And then that 200,000, in fact, is enough for a citizen to establish a business here in Nigeria. But notwithstanding, before you can be able to move from out of this country to another country, you must get some documents, particulars. Among those particulars is something relating to certificate of birth or declaration of age. Beside that one, then the state of origin passport, and then you try to get the visa. And then getting the visa is more easier for a student who is willing to travel abroad, in as much as you are able to get admission letter from that the school that you are going abroad, or even if you are going to work there. Once you are able to get the employment letter, then you can easily get their visa here. It is mean that you have already provided a good way for yourself. But in a situation when you are not be able to have your passport here in Nigeria, you didn't get a visa, and then you are found one way or the other, you left Nigeria illegally, and then at the same time, when you reach there also, it will be a lot of a problem.
The points taken in from another perspective on whether this discussion is necessary or not. I must say that this discussion is very important and essential. But starting, we know that this Japa syndrome is not a new thing. Even in the animal kingdoms, they migrate either for breeding purpose, either for food, or where there is overcrowding. Animals do migrate. Same with human, and we must not forget that human needs are insatiable. Human really wants a place whereby they can get satisfied. Okay, so in this case, human also to another to get a place where they can get fulfilled. So this Japa syndrome, of course, is not new, and it is not even peculiar to Nigeria alone. When I was in Mexico, we heard of caravans from Central America, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, moving en masse into Mexico, all en route into United States. All for what? All for a better life. So, but we also need to know that people, as Nigerians are moving out, people are also moving into Nigeria. So this Japa syndrome is global. People are moving all to satisfy their needs. And we must say that this Japa also has merits and demerits. One of the merits is the remittances that a particular country gets from the foreigners. Like the people in Cuba, when they travel, they make some remittances into their country, and that is used as part of what they need to drive their economy. What about cross-fertilization of ideas? People that travel out of another country, they go there, they learn some new ideas, and when they get those ideas, if they find their way back into the system also benefits from them. But the problem we are basically concerned about, the jackpot that is happening in Nigeria now, is the brain drain. We should not forget that the people that are migrating now are the youth, the productive sector of a particular country. So we need to understand that. But in any case, whatever jackpot is, the system will always adjust to cater for all those people that are leaving. Now, for persons that want to jackpot, for people that want to jackpot, there are some things they need to know to avoid either deportation issues or problem wherever they are going to. Because we have had series of cases in Mexico where people will be deported at the point of entry. One, what's the reason? One, for lack of purpose. People don't know why they want to travel. They just want to travel because they see the other people, like what Dr. Bidoye said, other people are living well in those places. They don't bother to make research about the immigration laws. They don't bother to make research to know what they need to enter into those countries. They just want to travel. So if they lack purpose, because we're at the port of entry in every country, they ask you, what's your mission in this country? What do you want to do? And then if they said, oh, what we want to do, we came here for tourists. Now they start asking, do you have the financial backings to survive in this country? We have had cases of people that are deported at port of entry because they don't have the sustenance, what they need to sustain them in that particular country. And at the end of the day, money is wasted, effort is wasted, they get dejected, and they come back to Nigeria frustrated. So before anybody can embark on a particular trip to another particular country, it is very essential to know what are the immigration laws. And are the immigration laws friendly? Because not countries have immigration laws that are very friendly. They need to understand that. And they need to understand what they need, the documents that they need to travel. It is important. Well, in other advanced countries, like what Dr. Bidoye said, youths are encouraged to travel to learn more about other countries so that subsequent traveling will not be difficult for them. But in Nigeria, we don't have that case. That case is not what is existing. People just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm tired of this country. There is nothing working in this country. I just want to travel. But traveling is more than that.
Firstly, I think as human beings, we are not government properties. We are human beings that God created. Yeah, we'll live in systems whereby we have governments in which, to a certain degree, we sacrifice some of our rights to the Constitution, in which the government operates. But again, that varies across different times. So if you see a country like China, China is a communist state. If you see other states within the Middle East, these are states that are headed by monarchs. But in a democratic system, the way citizens have been treated is different from the way citizens have been treated in these other states. So Chinese citizen to migration is not a Canadian to do. But overall, as a human being, you are a God creation. You have the right to move. So migration basically is as a result of search. We need something, that's why we move to somewhere else. And I can tell you, the concept of Japa today is all about better life, right? So the foundation of the issue should be, why are people seeking that better life elsewhere? So in my own case, I think my case is quite funny because even from my undergraduate time, I left Nigeria, So, and it's mainly for education. Looking at the system in Nigeria, we just came back from 8-month strike recently, or is it 8.5-month strike and so on, If you are just an average Nigerian that, you can even send your child to, even if it is Benin Republic, because I see Nigerians even going to Benin Republic to study. You move immediately just for education. So the fundamental question is, how do we get those things that are driving people out of Nigeria in Nigeria? But the truth is that it's not always sweet at that other side. So sometimes living abroad, you experience what I call disrespect. And that disrespect is as a result of where you are coming from. In quotes, it's not good. That's why the former president of the US said these countries are shitholes. Which, imagine you're an African and you're in the US and you hear this kind of thing, then look at how your counterparts will look at you in that place. So once we don't get Africa fixed, or we don't get Nigeria fixed, no matter where you are in this world, you will keep on experiencing disrespect. If you see an American and a European working together, the American don't say all the shitty comments to the European, because the European will tell you, get the fuck out of here, I'm going back to my country. But as an African, you are begging, even if it is in your gutter, let me be working there, because you want to stay back. The reason is that when you get back home, the situation might be worse than that. In fact, there was a time I was traveling to Italy and I got to this Doha airport. I was using Qatar Airways. I observed something at Doha airport. When I came in, first of all, I saw a lot of Black people in the airport. I was wondering, is it Ethiopian Airlines that I used? Then later on, I started observing properly. The Black people there were just doing the menial jobs in the airports. cleaning the toilet, taking your bag, putting in the machine, all these stuff. There was no Equatorian in that airport doing any of that job. And I asked myself, are African leaders not using this airport? I did not think, doesn't it speak something to them? So if we want to address this Japa issue, I think we should start from the foundation of the problem. And let's be honest about some of these things. There is so much of injustice in the country, and that's what's driving people away from the country. And young people, by their nature, they don't have so much invested in the country. You know, as I mean, I have like 2 mansions in Nigeria. I belong to this political party. I have this affiliation. I will not have the drive to leave. But if I'm out of the university, I don't have any job, I've not achieved anything. What's keeping me? Immediately I want to leave to where I can be valued. But it is not easy out there as well. You experience all these things. And on my own part, I try to connect with a lot of Africans here. We'll see what we can do because we still want to keep that network back home. So in terms of the reasons why I've been traveling, I think only Australia is the country, the continent I've not been to in this world. It's mainly for education. I never had a plan one day that I want to Japa, like the way people just wake up and say, I want to Japa. I think it's mainly education, research, scientific meetings, conferences, and so on. Okay, it was well.
Presently, my only regret would be that this program is not aired in the whole nation. Because people like Dr. Mike and Dr. Yedara should be before every youth. More than 2/3 of Nigerians are youth. People like Dr. Mike, I don't know Dr. Mike physically. I don't know whether we've met, but I know Dr. Yedara. You should be before all Nigerians, whether on air or physically or repeatedly, travel around the nation and begin to tell them the truth. Because people seem to not to understand what it is to face when you move out of the country. And I wouldn't want to repeat all Dr. Mike said or Dr. Yedara. I would have called Dr. Mike a clairvoyant because he actually said everything in my mind. And Dr. Adebisi Sahid, you quite know well the same situation we are facing in this part of our place, our settlement now. I don't want to mention the name, but I know you understand better. And I'm sure Dr. Yedara also understands better. Most of us are Yoruba people. So, and I've related with almost everybody and the way we talk. And Shomojo Rolari. So, we are not people that believe that we have to be in an environment or in a geographical settlement before our life can be good. But how were we treated here in Nigeria? Before I stepped out of this country to Denmark, I had engaged myself in every study regarding my field of research. I had my first and second degree in Nigeria. So, but before I left this country, which was for Denmark in 2017, I had studied everything that there is in my field of research that made me globally competitive. And I was at the Brain Prize in Medefort in Denmark. Then Germany, then Portugal. Then they start inviting me from one place to the other. Then my research was more competitive. But how was I treated in Nigeria? How was I accepted in Nigeria? I was apparently not even recognized. Now, moving to those countries, I'm sorry to have repeated what Dr. Mike said. It was as if
I actually joined late, so I didn't hear the part where Dr. Mike spoke, but I've heard part of his interventions at some point. I listened, so I joined when Dr. Abidoye was speaking. I also listened carefully to Dr. Yedara regarding this. What I think we are dealing with is a system that has not worked for its citizens. A system that has instilled a mind of hopelessness in the citizens. And in the midst of these, citizens are alone. They are on their own, so to say, and they have to work on themselves in order to make something out of life. We have a single life, and we are trying to make the best out of it. How do you make the best? And they've seen how things run elsewhere, and that leads to the point being made by Dr. Abido in terms of desperation. So hopelessness of citizens actually brings this desperation. And because of desperation, we had an opening in the last 2-3 years where it now becomes easy for people to move to the UK. And those who have been on queues for Canada and the US, you know, they just look through that route and say, okay, it's better to move through here. Before this season of desperation, we've had of this Japa thing, we've had the desperation also in the past that led to the irregular migration, where people had to go through the desert of Mali, Niger, and get trapped in Libya for years. For those who are lucky, they're able to go through the Mediterranean and cross. Of course, out of 100 people that cross, maybe 20 people will actually get to Italy, where the rest actually, you know, get perished in the sea. For some of them who have been trapped in Libya, some of them were repatriated some years back, and you see some of them go back through that route again. The question is, why do you, knowing full well that you may actually die in the desert, you can be kidnapped, sold as slaves, they still went through that route again? Okay, so as Dr. Mike said, it seems as if those who are educated are the ones going through. Those who are not truly, education is you know, those who are artisans go through the other routes. Okay, so we see this, so the issue of hopelessness is something that is breeding this idea. He also made mention of the appreciation of leisure, and I think I want to agree with him. For some countries, there is no policy that will go out to the public without the education sector knowing, you know, or having their inputs. Across the ministries, you have some units in universities, you know, attached to a particular, if it's education sector, there will be some units in a particular university attached to it. If it's economy, there will be some units in a particular university attached to it, you know, given the example of South Africa. So they are involved in policy, policy planning, policy implementation, and so for government to just go ahead with it. For those kind of country, they recognize the input, they recognize the importance of education. But here in Nigeria, it's a totally different story.
Discussion is that we have started to understand that Japa syndrome is a kind of a wave that we are thinking people need to be well educated about. And in the last episode, which was episode 1 of the scholar media interaction, which we actually started the discussion about the Japa. Is it necessary to discuss? Is it not necessary to discuss? And what are the issues? Revelations of ideas and also thoughts were emerged at that very discussion. And we saw a very different dimension to the discussion. Different issues that are necessary to talk about and nobody is talking about it. And revelation came then. We said we should advance on it to have episode 2. Episode 2 is going to take care of, okay, if anybody want to live abroad, how can the person prepare his mind, his family, his everything about it and live to survive there? And
program, nice of you to have me. As introduced, my name is Fatai Areoye, and from Nigeria, obviously. I've not lost my root, and I'm not going to lose my root any sooner. Now, this issue of Japa, as rightly said earlier, is nothing new. I think what has actually brought it into limelight is the social media that is actually in vogue now. If we can actually cast our mind back for those of us who are old enough, this has been in existence for ages, and people move out for different reasons. So it's not new at all. It's only been amplified now because of the effects of the social media. And for people travel for different reasons. And when they get to wherever their destination is, they find a lot of challenges, a lot of shortcomings, and they have to be prepared to actually overcome such shortcomings. And for very many, it's been a worthwhile experience, and there is always advice for people who want to travel, want to get ready, the cultural changes, things like that. All those will be explored in details. And there are pros and cons why people want to travel. Basically, I would say because of looking for greener pastures. Actually, there's no pastures is greener anywhere, the way you look at it. But I would delve more on what our government can do to actually explore the situation currently going on to the advantage of the country. So that is very, very key. We have to take advantage of what is going on to actually develop our country, because at the end of the day, we don't have any other place to call our own, because no matter how long you've been outside your base, outside your country, you are not actually accepted as full grown. Even if you have their passport, if you are their citizen, you will still be regarded as non-part of them, essentially. So there are so many things to be done by the government, and individual that is traveling as well has to, at the back of their mind, be ready that at any point in time, things might change. Do you have a base to go back to? What is your preparation? What is your agenda if things don't go well again? Are you able to go back home and settle down? So all those things will be the advice to give to people who wants to travel. Don't just take it as a holiday, as pleasure, and you just go there and misbehave. Have a target that if things don't work well, or if the government changes their mind. What am I going to do? What will I fall back to when I go back home? And so those are the things that we are going to explore actually. And as I said, it's been a pleasure being on this program, just to share my experience. And
I've been in the United States since the year 2000. And I would say I was one of the very, very blessed ones, because in two ways, I would say I came in through the diversity visa lottery into the United States. And also coming here, I already have a very strong family support in the United States that I had to stay with. So I didn't have to struggle that much. But I have friends that we left Nigeria at the same time. They came in on a student visa. They have a very good story to tell now, but at the beginning, it wasn't that very palatable for them. Not the things that they expected, not everything that they saw when they got here. The uncles and the big brothers that have promised to help them, after 2 weeks, 2 months, they had to tell them, you need to move out. To that, I can speak to, and some of my experiences here too as a student. And actually, I left Nigeria as a second-year medical student. And getting here, the whole education system is very different. I think maybe the education system in Nigeria and the United Kingdom are aligned a little bit, but in the United States, it's kind of different. But the struggle that I didn't have to struggle kind of helped me a lot. I will be speaking about, I have some friends that are living in Nigeria also right now, you know, because of this quote and unquote Japa syndrome that we are talking about. What are they seeing where they are going to? You know, what are their experiences? I can speak a little bit about that, and we just move on from there. Thank you.
As introduced, my name is Olatunde Bashola. I want to first appreciate the host, Ms. Dr. Okoyemi DBC. He's just defended his PhD thesis. So he's now a doctor. So let's all congratulate him for that. The event, the Scholar Media Interaction 2, is a good innovation to reach out to youths and students who are planning to migrate or who have migrated already to the US, United Kingdom, or even Australia. So it's a good initiative to enlighten them, to empower them so that they don't go astray. Because on surface, it's not that easy as people think when it comes to migration. You know, so it's a good initiative. I commend him for this. I'll go straight into my introduction. I picked the topic Japanomics from the same word Japa. I'll start by trying to define Japanomics. I say it's a Yoruba slang adapted to depict the unprecedented mass exodus of youths and young adults from Nigeria. So obviously, we know that youths are moving out en masse, and it's unprecedented, you know, and the rate at which it is happening now is unprecedented, you know, and what are the things that are driving this Japa syndrome, you know? So I've tried to list the internal drivers, frustrated by failure of government. So we all know this story, so I won't dwell too much on it. Also, the external drivers, like foreign policy of developed world on diversification. We heard from our brother who said he was fortunate to benefit from the US the lottery thing. So they have that policy to bring in young, talented people to their country to help develop their country. So that is there. For employment's sake, obviously there are some jobs that they leave for foreigners that people don't want to do those jobs. So that is there. And of recent, of recent COVID-19 deaths, you know, it was unprecedented. Not so many people died during that period. And obviously, they will need people to fill those employment gaps. So people are looking for better life also, you know, so people want to move. So migration or immigration, it's not new. And so if you look at this picture here, it depicts the NSAS protest where youths gather to complain and protest about bad governance and issues that were bothering them. So these are the issues that are pushing them out of the country, essentially. So I try to say that Japa syndrome is not new. And you can see from these statistics from the World Bank, you know, shows data of how people have been moving in and out of the countries since 1960. But I just tried to start from 1980. It's since 1960, as you can see here. So to 2021. So I start from 1980, which is the peak here. You can see it here, you know. So obviously people move around because of so many reasons. It could be for tourism, it could be for education, it could be for healthcare, it could be maybe because of political atmosphere is charged, government is gagging people, arresting people, you know, during the military era, you know, that happened a lot. And even of recent, we can see it happening. If you say anything about the government, so people are jackpotting for so many reasons. It could be also for war. People are leaving, so people are displaced even within Nigeria, you know, and people are running out of the country. So people are leaving for so many reasons. Essentially, they are dissatisfied or looking for something that they don't have in their country, essentially. So people are moving. So this net migration shows the difference between people coming in and people going out, whether they are citizens or whether they are foreigners in and out. This is the net. You know, so we can see that even in 1983, it was like minus. So we're in deficit here, you know, in terms of migration, you know, as far back as 1983. So if you can flag that to 1983 and think of what was happening then, you'll be able to say the reasons why this happens. But this is not the reason for this study. So this is a meeting, so I don't want to dwell on this. I just want to show this to people that Japa syndrome is not new. It's been with us. And the reasons why they happen, why they've been happening, still exist today. So, what I mean by Japanomics is, okay, in all of this, is it beneficial or are we losing? Is the country?
My thought is that people are living because they want better life for themselves, right? And I think also the NSAS sort of escalated the situation. I mean, I hate to, if we're talking about Nigeria specifically now, I hate to, you know, look like I'm speaking bad about my country, but honestly, nothing seemed to be working. If I were not in Canada by now, I probably would go to Benin Republic or go to Ghana, right? Because it's just very simple. You get to a point and you look at your life and what you want for yourself, right? And the possibilities of achieving it in Nigeria. So for young people that I have met, there are 3 or 2 major categories of people that are here. The first category of people are people who never even got any kind of job in Nigeria. Who never even got, maybe they got a job, one dead-end job, they never got any promotion at all. And that population is huge. There is another population of people who got a job, got promotion, but at the end of the day, it still wasn't adding up. Some of us got into employment, and when we started, when you convert what we're earning to dollars, it was like $1,000. And we have increased that rate by 100%. 3-4 years later, it is still $1,000. And you just look at it. What do we produce in Nigeria that is dictated by the price of the Naira? Virtually nothing, right? And look at what is happening to education costs. Look at what is happening to security. Look at what is happening to even basic commuting, right? You just at some point feel like, you know what, this is not for me. Let me just go somewhere else where I can live a more decent life. And I think that for me is the motivation for young people. And, you know, even now, when you then look at the conversation, the quality of the people, and I think that's another important factor. Sometimes some of us who are optimistic would want to be hopeful that something can change. But when you realize that you're living in a country of, I'm sorry to say, too many foolish people who are going to take certain decisions irrationally, then what is the chance that we're going to be able to change anything, right? So you ask yourself sometimes, who is thinking like I'm thinking in this place? Elections are coming, everybody are going to say, oh, my tribe, my person, my religion, and you look at it. What is the possibility of effecting any meaningful change within such a system? And those are some of just my random thoughts around the motivation for why people leave. And I think that would be a good summary of the topic.
China, you find Chinese everywhere. There is nowhere you go to that you will not see Chinese. And the purpose is that they want to learn new things and take it back to their country for development. I don't want to call it espionage, but I think to me, what they are doing is espionage. You get it? They are stealing ideas in form of coming to learn, coming to school, and to do some other things, and they are stealing technology, stealing ideas in a proper way and take it back to their own country. So the issue of Japa is a normal thing, but it is the problem that we are currently having in Nigeria that has really increased the rate of people going abroad. And the issue is now that people that are going abroad, the purpose is to learn and come back and adapt, implement, and even teach other people that are not privileged to move out. But in our case now, people japa and they stay there and they don't come back again. So the issue now is we are now having brain drain in Nigeria. People are moving out, they go and learn, and they will not come back. So in as much as I appreciate Japa because I've done it also, I've been to Germany, I've been to South Africa, Thailand, Serbia, Germany, but I would prefer people that are going out to learn new things and come back to implement their idea in Nigeria. Because if you hold Japa and we do not return, that is gunpowder, seriously. Then another issue about the Japa that Dr. Wahab mentioned, and I want to really buttress is, especially in academic or in the academia, is that Japa it 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 reorientates our idea. These are our primordial idea about, especially in academic. You mentioned someone that professors will be saying to students that you will not pass my course at the onset of the course, or if you don't call me professor, you will be victimized. These are ideas that when you go out, you do Japa, and you come back, you find out that these are primordial ideas.
I would say a lot has been said, actually. But the Japa syndrome in Nigeria, as we have it, honestly, for me, it has been more of a developmentalist approach to everything. But if you look at it, someone who lost a whole family as a result of insecurity in Nigeria, and the person decides to Japa, how easy would it be to convince such person that, oh, give back to your home country, or go back to your home country? That's one perspective, right? And at the same time, when people say, oh, yeah, Japa, the next question is, okay, what is the plan? I always say to myself today, if all these countries were going to, if they say that, okay, yeah, it's time for you guys to go back, we are no longer tolerating immigrants, everybody would pack and go. And that sent a message to every one of us. As much as we leave our home country to study, to explore the world, to learn, we should always understand that the world really owes nobody anything. But then we owe the world a lot, especially our home country. From my own experience, I was in the management consulting in Abuja, mainly public sector. That's what I was doing, public sector driven consulting. We had experience with the likes of TED Fund, had experience with the likes of NUC at consulting level. And when I decided to leave Nigeria and got here, I saw things from a different perspective, seeing the bridge between private and public sector. And the first thing I said to myself was, wait, do we even have in Africa or a collaboration between Nigerian universities and other African universities, the Institute for the Study of African Economy? Do we even understand our own economy? You see a lot of nonprofits, you see Africa Economic Research Consortium, you see a lot of them like that. And one of these Africa Research Institute founded by the WTO DG, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala. But do we even understand the nuances of our own economy? When people leave, like Dr. Adebayo said, and Dr. Clement, when people leave for other countries, they learn, they study, right? And then they apply back. Of course, we know the reality is different in third world countries, especially when poverty is at an increasing rate. However, what I would always tell people is, when you want to Japa, what is the plan? And as much as possible, I tell people, when you want to Japa, it's not just plan A and plan B now. The world is so globalized that you even need to start having a plan C, if anyone would agree. And we've seen people leave the country. There's no even plan. Honestly, there's no plan. There's no plan. You see people leave the country, okay, either through studies or something, they just want to leave. That's just it. So what are you coming to do? People get, they end up getting frustrated. There are people with such situations, right? There are people that once they leave the country, they draw the line, they lock the gates. But all these conversations, of course, everyone can argue and people can support it like, oh, it's as a result of the economic situation. However, I wouldn't want to go too much, because my own background is development economics. We've seen all these things. Theory is different from reality. I studied in the same university where you were a visiting scholar, Göttingen. I tell them, see, forget all these research papers that we do. They are important. Tools are important. Scientific methods are important. But at the center of everything, we have humans making the decisions. And that is where this context of the conversation comes in. We should ask ourselves, if we decide, let everybody park and go anywhere and everything, the reality is, when it gets to the tough time, we need to make a decision whether, okay, if this Japa, what do we want to make out of it? Anybody can travel out. You can travel. It's rare for one to pack his or her whole family out of the country, whether we like it or not. It's probably not so possible for everyone to do that. And these are the questions I always look at. Like, okay, as much as we travel around, study, learn,
settle in some other countries, the next question is, what do we want to do, for our home country, even where we are as well, right? But we know the situation. So what do we want to do? How do we want to effect change in the society? And these are the conversations that we should start thinking about. And then, of course, I believe by as much as we proceed, we'll come to other topics. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, I listened to those who have spoken, and I really appreciate, and I'm actually in line with them. Even though presently we are now having two schools of thought, I want to align with both. Those who believe Japa is okay. I think that's the last speaker. And the first two who believe, let's come back home. Oh. Anyway, with the challenges we have in Nigeria, imagine the cashless situation we have now. Those are sinner societies. So when we talk about Japa, let's be frank, Japa is actually not academic. I could talk a little more for the United Kingdom. Japa is not about academic. Many of them, they will collect their cars, they will collect their admission, they will enter the school, they will Japa from the school. How about that? And that is why you see that when Rusat came in, the new prime minister, he said, and they had to go, the home office had to go and make a particular research. And they said, Kilo de Nigeria. Why is this? Every one of you are here. You are here with your family, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. Say, what shall we do? See, the situation is, it's not all the Japa stuff, it's not academic. So people get into the school, they pay the 1K pounds or the 3K pounds or 2K pounds, and they just leave. Once they are able to have a way that is share, they Japa into the system. The school cannot even trace them. Of course, that's a lie. The school can trace them if they want to, but do they have your time? You see, so these are realities we need to look at when we're talking about Japa. We're talking about network, talking about this and that. So for me, it's good to let's develop Nigeria. But those who are in charge of Nigeria, excuse me, sir, are they interested in Nigeria? That is the point we need to look at. The people we're talking about, the younger generation we're looking into. Okay, we're talking about career paths. I don't know if that is the stage we are now. Career path, look at it. Look at various career paths that people could have. You could be talking about, okay, maybe it is knowledge-based though, skill-based though, or entrepreneurship-based though, freelance though, and the rest of all of those paths. But let's be sincere. Nigerians are smart, yes. But how many Nigerians are actually pursuing knowledge when it comes to career paths? Everybody is looking for survival. How will my father be okay where he is? Those who are married, they will be sending money home. And you're going to find a lot of families, there are challenges. So the first thing people are looking at is the economic situation of their own families, their microeconomics. That how could their situation be better? How could they not be hungry? So when we look at this Japa thing, okay, we're talking about, I take courses on migration in my school. I mean, diaspora missions is one of my major courses, international missions. Now, look at it. A student was asking me, I think he came from Chad. We have students from various countries, around us, both within Africa and outside. And one was asking me the other day, he said, we're talking about brain drain. What is happening to Nigeria? I said, this is not just, see, brain here, because when the person who is carrying the brain is not happy, when the person who is carrying the brain is not well paid, when the person who is carrying the brain is afraid of insurgencies, is afraid that the Boko Haram are coming. Look at even Osun State, what we experienced not too long ago. That they said, I want to do Osun, and they are in this place, so they are doing this, so they are doing that. People are scared. So what are we talking about? See, the situation in the country is such that nobody wants to come back if they go. Look at my brother just spoke about that. I don't know, so many of my, younger ones, friends who have had opportunity for that program. But, very few will come back. They will prefer to do whatever they are doing there, stay 1 or 2 months or 1 year and use that word again, Japa, another part of the world. Why? Because they just cannot stay.
train of discussion. This is very important. It is important to say this. So it is not all big about Nigeria. There are also big opportunities in Nigeria. People know your value. People will put you and pay you for what you really are worth. And that's one aspect. But as for my scholarship journey, I've always been interested since a very young age. I've always been interested in intersection between politics and economics. I always feel that politics rubs off on economics. The decision makers make decisions that affect the economy, and also the economy, in a way, also affect the decisions of politicians. That has always been our idea. So I've always been looking for a way to do a master's or PhD in that area, so as can understand the situation of Nigeria. That's my own motivation for those kind of things. And at some point in time, in 2015, 2014, I was traveling the world with some group of 120 people from all over the world, from different countries all over. I was from Nigeria. We were traveling to Brussels, Tunis, South Africa, and other places for 1 year on a leadership training. So I was trying to make up my mind where to study philosophy and politics at the master's level. And I came up with the university, Wittenherdecke University in Germany. There was also York University in the US. There was also another university in Sweden. So when I met a lady from Germany, I said, look, I want to study this course. I am trying to make a final decision. Can you help? I was like, where did you get this small university in the middle of nowhere in Germany? I'm like, why did you say it's a small university in the middle of nowhere? And I was like, he said it's a crazy university. And that was the motivation for me to go to Wittenherdecke to study philosophy, politics, and economics. So, and like some of the previous speakers already said, I'm a typical Nigerian, I drive for what I want. After applying and I got admitted, the embassy was asking for block accounts or scholarship letter or whatever, and I didn't have anything. I didn't have money. I wrote to the university and said, I want a scholarship to come and study with you. They said they didn't have a scholarship. And they gave me link to other scholarships. I was looking for that scholarship, another scholarship. I didn't get one. But I was at home in September because I was supposed to go in winter. They now wrote me and said, we created a scholarship. You can apply for that. So for third world country students, and I applied and I got that scholarship. And I was already 2 years in Germany before I discovered that they had only one scholarship and 12,600 plus people applied, and I got that scholarship. So part of why those parts of the world are better than Nigeria is the fact that they've been able to solve the problem of free rider, in the sense that they've been able to marshal everybody's contribution in such a way that nobody can dodge the system. Nobody can hide from the system. Everybody needs to contribute their fair share, and the system can also help them when they are in need of anything. So these are some of those things I feel is missing in Nigeria. We don't pay taxes, we want good governance. We all behave. When I came back from Germany, I was always putting my feet on zebra crossing. No people have stopped for me for the past 6 years. These are educated people who refuse to talk for you on zebra crossing, and you expect they're going to be better by magic. So, it's some of the things I learned from that scholarship is studying economics, philosophy, and politics was that we cannot get it right until our outlook to life also change. It is one of us. I have friends who are in government today. We were always activists before fighting the government. They are not in government. Nothing has changed. So are you telling me if we change tomorrow, our attitude will not change? So these are some of the things I learned from Germany. We need to change our outlook to life. We need to understand that what goes around comes around. And if you don't act well, other people will not act well. It is going to come back to you and bite you in the leg. So this was for my master's, and I did study. And like a typical Nigerian, let me give you something very funny. I am supposed to major in one particular area, either economics, politics, or philosophy. And I was the first person to have majored, to have graduated in that course, in that in that degree with a two major. I have a major in global economic development and a major in philosophy and society, making it. So when I was graduating, it was a problem because they had to give me 2 certifications. So that was one. So that was one aspect. I carried in that 2 years. I carried about 165 course units instead of 120. So that was that. So it was. I didn't want to do a PhD anymore. I was so tired. But the university called me and said, at the beginning, you said you wanted to do a PhD. So are you still interested? I said no. But they said, oh, we support you to do it. And I started my PhD in economics there. My focus is actually development economics. I'm actually interested in issues of poverty. And like somebody said in the beginning, Amartya Sen, the human rights perspective to poverty, the multidimensional view of poverty, not looking at poverty that if somebody has money in his pocket is not poor. There are different aspects to poverty. If somebody needs clothes and he cannot get clothes, that person is poor. If somebody needs education and he cannot get education, that person is poor. If somebody needs health and he cannot get access to health, that person is poor. If it's a woman who is supposed to be something, and even there is part poverty, imagine there is part poverty. There are some women who cannot even afford to buy sanitary pads. That's not kind of poverty also. They are still using clothes. So these are some of the things I learned in Germany. And interestingly, after I started my PhD, we got a funding. We got a funding from the Alexander Humboldt Foundation to do a research in my own research area. Even though I was the baby in the group, I have the renowned Professor Evans Osabon from Covenant University. I have Dr. Romanos, I have Dr. Deshugu, and I also have Dr. Silva. But I was the baby there, but I had an advantage. I was focusing on the cassava value chain in Nigeria. And the research funding decided to focus on the cassava value chain in Nigeria. So that was how the baby in the group became the expert of the group. So when we go to meetings and after, I've been in Nigeria doing feed trips and feed work for the past 3 years. Been to all parts of Nigeria talking to farmers in villages. I remember early last year, we were going to the northern part of Nigeria. They will kidnap you, they will kill you. We were in Benue State for like a month. I have all those pictures on my blogs and website. You can see talking to farmers in Benue State, talking to farmers all over the country, cassava farmers to be precise. I'm actually finalizing 4 papers based on that feed work currently. And I also brought in a new idea that why are yields low in Nigeria? Some of the ideas are like, no fertilizer, they didn't use fertilizer, they didn't do proper agronomic practices and so on and so forth. But I am saying, yes, these are problems. But the main problem is risk aversion on the part of small farmers, which is my main thesis on this particular aspect. So back to all of these things, I think my experience in Germany has raised the bar for me. My outlook to things have changed. I can think very well properly now. I don't think like a typical Nigerian, that's my opinion. Now, I think of fairness first. I think of empathy again. I also think of what is right and what is wrong and must always try to do what is right all the time. But in Nigeria, it's always whatever goes. Me, I don't give excuses for anything. We are all hungry. We could all be kidnappers. We could all be thieves. So people are rich and they are still stealing this country's money. So there's no excuse to say people are poor and still no. The people who are stealing the most of Nigerian money are the richer people. So are you telling me because they are also poor? So there are no justification for all this kind of things. But I think the knowledge we gain abroad, if we bring them home and use them for our country, to be a better country very soon. We cannot leave this country to other people to work on it. If we not work, then let us listen to ourselves. Thank you.
We are planning to actually produce the Japa Syndrome magazine from the host platform. The scholar narrates the episode 1, the episode 2, and the episode 3 of it that we are wrapping up today. And also we are going to feature the profile of all the guests. We have had till now 14 guests. So we are going to take their career profile, their personal history, background, and also what they have been able to do and their motivation for the aspiring scholars and the career professionals. So we are going to take it in that very magazine. And what is going to be the modality, we are going to work it out, and we are going to share it with everyone that has participated in this very Japa Syndrome discussion and beyond. So that is another dimension we are taking it, because the videos, many people, as they would like to watch the videos, many people would like to have the text, which is will be in form of the hard copy. So we are taking it to that level, and we will carry everybody along. And let me take the final and the wrap-up work from scholar Sahid Sokumbi.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Sahil Adebisi, my namesake. Yeah. So apparently a lot has been said, and it's been interesting, honestly. Being part of this kind of conversation is something I really like. Yeah, I'm so passionate about conversations like this. And just one thing I would advise is perhaps you can broaden this, honestly, within our learning institutions, you know, and these are the kind of conversations that people should be conversant with. Information is key. A lot of people don't have that information, and with the level of things now, ignorance is not even an excuse. It's not again. So we need to make sure we put the words out there, and at the same time, we should continue to be the good citizens of Nigeria, wherever we are, and to wrap it up, adding value wherever it is we are. I encourage every one of us to keep that up. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you so much, and we can on our video to say goodbye to ourselves now as we close this very session. So thank you so much, and this is how we come to the end of the Japa's Freedom discussion, episode 3. So we are going to update us on the further discussions, and when our attention is needed for further interaction and contribution, we are going to reach out to us. Thank you so much, and God bless.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Yeah.